So it was just like one of those tables where you probably weren't going to come out of there with a lot of chips, but it wasn't very volatile. How about that? It wasn't very volatile. I also had this lady, Kit Kat, who is Blake Bond's wife from Minnesota. She was at my table, and a couple of other people too.
And listening, as you just heard, to the latest episode of the Crush Live Poker Podcast. It just seems like a week doesn't feel right to me if I go the entire week without listening to that podcast, which I never do. I've heard every one since 2010, even when it was called something else. And if you want to do the same thing and get the same benefits that I have, you can always do so, getting 25% off for life just by going through the link in the description below. We got a 5-10 game coming together here at Peppermill for the 315th edition of this vlog. I'd head on in to play poker the day after, making my first ever trip to the Ruby Mountains, more specifically Lamoille Canyon in northeastern Nevada. And I know it's a shock, but vlog 315 would come your way from a casino that happens to be known as Peppermill Reno. A place where you can take a selfie from anywhere in the world, including Hawaii. A place where you can play video poker overlooking a number of scenic vistas. A place where they often have conventions for holistic nurses. A place where Lindsay can't hide from the camera.
And a place where the fortune favors the fools.
This was a rare scenario. It's 10 a.m. on a Thursday, and the game from the previous night is still going on. Most of the players are daytime players who have showed up early, but two guys have been here all night. Spoiler alert, they'd be the two giving all the action. One of the guys stacks his chips like this. The other guy would play a hand against who I think is the best poker player in town. I'm sure everyone would agree. They used to just call him Young Jerry. Now they just call him Jerry because the old one kind of stopped coming in. It was a hand in which this gentleman in seat 8 would call a $250 raise pre-flop with 4-7 offsuit. I guess that pretty much tells you all you need to know. But he then calls another $350 on the flop with just middle pair before turning trips. And his plan to win a massive pot off of Jerry would pan out, as I would think that pot was at least $5,000. So I would see action out of both these guys that had stayed in the game all night, but I did find myself wondering upon sitting down, would that last? Spoiler alert, it would. But at the time, I wasn't sure necessarily that it would, because my experience is oftentimes when games go all night, these guys who have been there just kind of settle into just a grinder mentality. It's like maybe they were playing loose and crazy earlier, but now they're stuck deep. They want to get it back, and they just say, I'm just going to grind until I get it back. But that's just my experience. Sometimes action can still be coming, and that would be the case on this day. Chips are flying. White Claws are still being consumed. If you're asking me, I've never been a fan of the White Claw. To me, it doesn't taste good and doesn't have much alcohol in it. So I don't see the point. Anyway, over the first hour, I can't get involved in any hands in this game. I was card dead. The only thing I could pick up were some suited connectors, and that was costly, trying to see flops with them in this lineup. When the cutoff straddled 20 and I have 6-7 of clubs on the button, I would raise to 3x. The big blind is one of the two guys playing every hand and gives tons of action, and the cutoff is the other. Not surprisingly, these are the two guys that give action in this spot as well. So with 185 in, the flop is Ace-King-8 with 2 clubs, and the big blind checks. The cutoff leads out for 60. Again, these guys are playing every hand. I do not love the idea of a semi-bluff here, so I just make this call. Big blind check calls also. So at 365 in, the turn is an offsuit 10. Checks to me, and with 7 highs still, I just check back. The river's an offsuit 5. Check to me once again. I deemed this, and I know that it's terrible for vlogging, but I'm just showing you what happened. I deemed this to be a give up. Had one of these two guys gone out earlier, I think I would have tried something, but against both of them, it just seemed like suicide. So I check back. The cutoff announces 2 pair. The big blind hears that and mucks his cards without seeing what his opponent has. The cutoff table's pocket fours for one pair. Big blind, not happy. I couldn't beat it anyway, so I didn't really care, but either way I lose the pot. Not exactly a highlight reel hand for me out of the gate, to say the least. Things would continue to be brutal for me for the next 2 hours. A lot more suited connectors and hands like it. And I would try to get involved with them on a number of occasions, raising them over these straddles, but it would just cost me several $100s in the process. And these small losses with these hands added up quick in this game, as I had bought in for $1,500, and I'd already lost more than half of it. Under the gun opens to 85. This is a small open by his standards, as we've seen $175 opens, $225 opens. I have Jack 10 of hearts in the under the gun +1 position and make this call. 2 others come in behind. So with 350 in, the flop would come out King 10-4 rainbow with 1 heart, and to my surprise, under the gun checks. I checked this back, not planning to get overly invested here if either one of these guys bets out, but no one does, and the turn is one of the best turn cards in the deck for me. It is the King of Hearts. So the likelihood of my pair of 10s being good, I think, is pretty high, and I've added a flush draw. Under the gun now does bet. He fires 175. I certainly believe that I have the best hand here, and given the fact that I also have the draw, with my stack size what it is, this becomes a no-brainer. I jam all in for $305 more than his $175 bet. And he actually goes into the tank on this and asks me, while he's thinking about it, if I will run it twice. I am so convinced I'm pretty far ahead here that I go ahead and tell him yes. I don't know if that changed his mind. Pretty sure it didn't, given the fact that he ended up showing Ace 5 of hearts for the nut flush draw. So pretty clear he was calling me anyway there, as he puts in the chips, creating a $1,310 pot. I am going to need your help here. I haven't asked for this in a while. I'm going to need you to jam that like button right now. Just stop watching and jam the damn like button. It's going to help me here, because I really need to not hit my flush. Probably the first time I've ever said that in one of these situations. We need to avoid my hand getting any better. Let's check the run out. No hearts. I take down both boards. And after getting kind of kicked around and beaten up for the first 2 hours of play in this kind of crazy lineup, I'm close to being back near even. This is a mid-session update. Well, games like this don't happen every day. This is an opportunity to win a lot or lose a lot. I predict I will do one of those two things here at the Peppermill. Chips would continue not to be stacked, and they would continue to fly with seat 8 and seat 2. This was unlike anything I've seen in a game this year. I thought I'd have a shot at a big pot when I only had to call 75 more to set mine with pocket 9s, but I was outflopped in a hurry. I'd lose a couple of more small pots, but then, under the gun would straddle to 25. Folds to me in the cutoff with kings, and I go 4x. Small blind cold calls here, and the straddle folds. So with 235 in, the flop is ace-5 deuce with 2 spades. Obviously not ideal for kings. No one bets this flop. Ends up getting checked through, and the turn is a jack. And the small blind checks once again. I really feel like my way to make money on this hand is to get him to bluff me. And since that's not happening here, I need to have it happen on the river. So I check back, and that card peels off a 9. He does indeed bet, not as big as I thought he might, but he puts in $125. I snap call, creating a $485 pot, and he says that he just has a medium pair, so I take the pot down with my pocket kings. We would then get the pro Jerry, who had been running worse than anyone on the day, as he had lost set over set in a bomb pot in a brutal scenario. But he wouldn't lose to a set here, as he would river a flush against one and get paid off for about 2,000 on the end. Straddles would be on in most hands in this game. I would raise ace-king to 85, getting multiple callers, and I would whiff the flop. I would also get dealt ace-queen, get multiple callers, and would whiff the flop. You see what I'm talking about in terms of, you do that a couple of times and it can have big impacts on the size of your stack. The stack on my right, by the way, still not stacked. Also, as of July 10th, Reno Grinder was still in the main event, having made the money. He tweeted out this picture with the hashtag crazy spot, spelled with a K. The game was wild, clearly, but these chips can come and go fast. I had been up about 300 on the day after the pocket king's hand, but then I found myself stuck about that much 90 minutes later before we'd get an open to $85 in middle position. I have ace-king in the low jack and 3-bet to 200. Folds around to seat 8, and the only question was, would he 4-bet me, in which case I'm never folding, or would he just call? Turns out he would just call. So with 415 in, the flop is ace-8-3, giving me top pair, top kicker. As I kind of expected might happen, he does bet out into me, making it 165. I have a little under 1,500 in front of me, so what's the play against a maniac here? He's going to have nothing a lot. There is a flush draw out there. I decided to basically click this back, making it 400. And unfortunately for me, he basically announces that he has king-queen and would fold the hand immediately. Fortunately for him, and unfortunately for the pro Jerry, he would double up straight over set 2 hands later. Rough day for Jerry when he would hold sets. In this case, the dealer had to stack all the chips, and that took a while. I would then watch a different angle of a highlight that some of you might have seen, Patrick Bailey of the Giants hitting a walk-off inside the park 3-run home run, one of the great regular season moments in San Francisco Giants history. Only problem was, it happened in those hideous purple City Connect jerseys, which I despise. Not shockingly, this next hand would take place against the man in seat 8 on my immediate right. And this time, I'd finally get the hand I was looking to get. We get Jerry the pro opening to 25 plus 1. Seat 8 then 3-bets to 65 in the low jack. I think about it for a second before 4-betting to an even 200 in the hijack, and it folds all the way back around as expected. He does make this call. And with 440 in, the flop is 5-5-4 rainbow, and he checks. I bet 225 here, hoping he has some sort of pair that can call. And sure enough, he does call. So with 890 in, the turn is what I had to assume was not a good card for me. It's an ace. I thought it would kill my action, but it would turn out that this guy was going to represent that ace. He fires $420, and I don't see why I would now raise, given the fact that he's likely to have nothing and might bluff the river as well. So it's $1,700 and $30 in. The river is a 10. He checks at this point. I only have about $600 left. I obviously am just going to bet it all here, so I slide those chips into the pot, and as I expected, he throws his cards into the muck immediately. So I do think that I played the hand the most profitable way I could. Maybe I would have made more if the ace didn't come. Maybe I would have made less if he couldn't represent it. We'll never know. And that takes us to our last hand. And what a hand it is. We'd get a live $20 under the gun. Plus 1 is the gentleman I played these last few pots against, not surprisingly, and he would do something that he rarely does. He would limp in for the 20 to call the straddle. I looked down at a couple of jacks from the under the gun plus 1 position, and I would raise 5x, making it 100. To my surprise, Jerry in the big blind and the straddle both call. Obviously, we know the limper is calling as well. So with 400 in, the flop is 8-3 deuce with a couple of clubs, and it gets checked to the guy that's been doing all the betting. And the way I saw it, I should continue to let him. He fires $275 here. I know that I can call this bet And I don't really have to worry about the other two guys getting involved unless they have monsters. So I toss in the 275, and it was pretty clear those two guys didn't have monsters, as they get out of the way immediately. So we are heads up with $950 in the pot to a turn, which comes the 6 of hearts. He now checks. My read on this check is that he's basically just giving up on the hand, kind of like in the other hand. I think if I check back, he's going to bluff a lot of rivers. Obviously, he could realize his equity, but at this point, that's a risk I'm willing to take. So I check back, and the river peels off a 9. And sure enough, he is going to bet, and he's not going to bet small. He fires $490, and I had already had my mind made up before he even made the bet. I toss in the chips, creating just under a $2,000 pot, and he says, "Good call." I table my cards and collect the pot. Unfortunately for my opponent in that last hand, the remainder of his chips would go to Jerry, who picked up the Robbie in a bomb pot, flopping 2 pair on one and a pair on the other, resulting in a scoop against Ace-Jack. So the action would leave the casino, which was all right with me, because I wanted to make a 430 workout anyway. It would just turn out that that's something I would do after booking a win. All right, well, days like this don't come around all that often. When they do, you got to make the most of them. I had about 5 hours in which to do that, with the action the way it was before the two guys giving all the action. No longer had any money to give action with. For me, getting out of here with exactly a $1,900 win. Needless to say, given how this year's gone for me, that doesn't suck. All right, can't exactly tell how good this shot looks, but this is the equivalent of an emergency podcast vlog ending, and I'm not fully set up to do this as I would like with the equipment, given the nature of how this ended up playing out. But I talked about the World Series of Poker main event on the last vlog. I had talked about Adam Bishop, aka Reno Grinder, and his run. And by the way, who the hell is that? Because that is not Adam Bishop. I'm not sure how that ended up playing out for Poker News when they got that picture on there. He ended up making an amazing run in the main event, finishing in the top 100 for $85,000. But, well, that pales in comparison to another man who plays in the game at the Peppermill from time to time, and a guy who, well, may or may not be doing that again after what has happened to him. Because Jared Mangini, and I hope I am saying that last name right. There's a couple different pronunciations I could be going with. I always see it written down. I never hear it pronounced. But Jared has final tabled the main event of the World Series of Poker. This is unbelievable. A guy from our game. And he doesn't play in our game every day. He lives up at Tahoe. But my God, what an amazing story this is for Reno Poker to see this. I mean, it's one thing to final table any World Series of Poker tournament. This man has final tabled the damn main event. Now, he is the short stack going into it, but he's got over 25 million in chips. And the chip leader, I think, is around 100. So, I mean, it's not as if he's drawing dead. And if you've ever played against Jared, you know that he is as formidable of an opponent as you can find out there. So he is absolutely drawing live to take this historical run to the next level. I mean, couldn't even imagine what it would be like if he were to actually take this thing down, which, I mean, he has a chance to do. He's at the table with the grinder, Michael Mizrachi, who doesn't really play like a grinder. Reno Grinder plays like a grinder. The grinder does not play like a grinder anyway. I know Jared's already been at his table a lot leading up to this final table, so he kind of knows what he's going to be getting out of Mizrachi, I would think, at this point going into it. So, believe on Tuesday, if you're watching this on Monday, the final table is going to be starting. So we are rooting for Jared here, no doubt, in Reno, all the poker players here, as he tries to do something historic, obviously. not just for Reno poker, but for all of poker. Just one of the most amazing stories that we've ever had the chance to talk about on this vlog. I think for those of you who are Deach vlog long-time viewers, you might remember there was a home game that I got invited to up in Tahoe. That home game was at Jared's house. And what a nice house it is. Guessing he's going to have an even nicer one after this. So if you want to go back and watch that from, I think it was May of 2021, the only home game vlog I ever did, that was at his house. So fun experience there as he looks to make this epic run in the World Series of Poker main event. Hit the like and subscribe buttons. If you're new to this channel, we'll follow Jared's run, and we'll see you back here next time.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative.